Chapter 7. The Map. Having identified your destination, you now need to figure out the route to get you there. And you're not going to rely on your GPS here. Strategy traces the route from your destination back to your starting point, creating a map from where you are to where you want to be. Start at the end, work backwards. Here's how I see building a strategy. Start with the goal. Then, analyze all the conditions that exist between your present state and that goal. This includes any of your challenges, the audiences and stakeholders you need to consider, the amount of time you have, and the resources you have at your disposal. Only when you've considered your goals and all of the factors involved can you craft a good strategy. We can look to the first Iron Man movie for a lesson in strategy. This is my last superhero example, I promise. Tony Stark is captured and held hostage by a terrorist organization. They demand that he make them a weapon within a given time or meet his untimely end. He has to employ some crafty strategy to get out of there safely. Let's start with his goal. Tony wants to escape his imprisonment before the deadline. He analyzes all of the conditions of his present situation. He is unarmed, given sufficient raw materials to fulfill his captor's demands to their timeline, surrounded by hostile forces, and faced with an armory of weapons he himself had previously designed. However, what he does have is an extraordinary intellect and a kind ally in his fellow prisoner, Ho Yinsen, who could assist him in building the weapon his captors demand. So Tony begins to craft a plan, to use his design, engineering, and building talents not to build a weapon for his captors, but instead to build a robotic suit made of metal, equipped with various weapons that allow him to dispense with his imprisoners and escape safely. He designs the entire suit and then, piece by piece, builds the various components. When the suit is complete, he powers it up and executes his escape plan with only a few minor complications. As with Tony Stark's suit, every good strategy should start with defining the goal, then analyzing the conditions, and finally, designing a plan. You should follow this process for two reasons. First, starting with the end is practical and makes planning a whole lot easier. Looking at the day-to-day steps and determining what that series of actions will add up to is a lot trickier than identifying where you are going and working backwards at the step that directly precedes the end, followed by the step that precedes that one, and so on. Second, considering the destination builds trust and clarity with your team. Choosing the right destination in the first place can help your teammates see your vision. When it aligns with theirs, you create the conditions for collaboration. If your team can't get on board with the end goal, they may lose confidence in you. They may not believe in the way you're proposing to get there. The goal seems too unattainable. This is not a call to choose goals by consensus or to choose more reasonable goals. Quite the opposite. This is a call to create a vision for a big goal in the future. For example, to cut homelessness rates in half within 3 years, or win the championship this year and the next 2 after that, or triple revenues over the next 2 years and launch a nonprofit. Paint it as vividly as you can until all members of the team can see it clearly. This is also why you need to deeply understand your team, empathize with them, and relate to them on a personal level. Knowing your team is also important when strategizing about roles and responsibilities. They are stakeholders and resources that will help you all reach the goal. If you deeply understand where each person excels and what they love to do, your strategy will be better thought out, your resources more carefully factored in, and consequently, your chance of success exponentially increased. Plans and processes. Do you remember the first section header in Chapter 3? No? Well, since it's been documented, you could always go back and check. And that's the point. Documentation is a fail-safe for your memory. It is a living artifact that contains the words to which you align your actions. With documentation, you are a team with a common playbook. Without it, you are aimless individuals, each operating from your unique recollections and spotty memories. You need a clear strategy document that shows your goals, strategies, tactics, roles, and responsibilities. In order to ensure that your strategy is clear, make sure you ask for feedback so you don't get stuck thinking you are clear when you're not. Strategy documentation should be a collaborative process. Once you've created a plan, review it. Use the communications we discussed in Chapter 5 to ensure your team understands and is aligned with the strategy. Bring everyone together for a strategy review so that everyone benefits from one another's involvement. This is a chance for people to raise issues, ask questions, or offer improvements. The goal is to leave the review with everyone feeling they are crystal clear on the goals, the strategy, and their roles. In addition to the plan, you also need a living handbook for your team. This should include all of your systems and processes to be used by everyone on the team as a reference. Many people think that process documentation ruins creativity by prescribing exact actions. But I have found that the more regimented and habitual processes become, the more freedom they allow. In his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins said, quote, "Disciplined people who engage in disciplined thought and who take disciplined action, operating with freedom within a framework of responsibilities, this is the cornerstone of a culture that creates greatness." End quote. Process is a discipline. Systems operate in the background, keeping things on track. When you find a way to do something, document the steps. Be as granular as possible. This gets everyone moving in the same direction, using the same techniques. It encourages collaborative process improvement, with everyone working from the same toolkit. Goals are essential, and a great leader must also focus on the marginal process improvements that add up. Here's a tip: manage your priorities. Your team, like all teams, will at some point have too many things to do. As a leader, you need to define the priorities, keeping your goals and strategies in mind, so that when your team is overwhelmed, you know how to best organize tasks to align with them. If you can't figure out where to start, write down a list of everything that needs to be done, then prioritize it in numerical order. This is no time for indecision. Whatever is on that list gets done in that order. Always lock it in. The final step for plans, processes, and priorities is to make sure that you complete the process by getting buy-in. You do this for two reasons. 1, because commitments drive action. And 2, because genuine buy-in allows for genuine accountability. If you've involved your team in the planning process, then getting enthusiastic consent should not be too difficult. If someone gives you their honest word as a commitment to do something, and they do not come through, hold them accountable. If they give their authentic commitment, then you know you have something to work with if they don't achieve their results. At least they are willing to try to improve. There are a few ways I've found to confirm buy-in. You can ask, does that sound reasonable? Can we agree to this? How do you feel about these goals? Because if you think you can do it, this is what I'm going to hold you accountable to. What do you need from me to ensure this gets done? Close the loop by ensuring that your team members agree to their part of the plan. Lovable Leader's Cheat Sheet. To develop excellent strategies, I will remember that the best executed strategies begin with aligned goals. Start with the end and work backwards. Involve my team in the creation of strategies to deepen their ownership. Document our plans to provide clarity to the team and increase accountability. Help the team understand and manage priorities. Increase accountability across the entire team by locking in commitments, because commitments drive action and genuine buy-in allows for genuine accountability.